what's going on? Can Ford sell trucks? Well, the whole idea that Ford can't sell trucks, they're in big trouble, and they're not making Mavericks just isn't true. It can appear that way, but it's not true. Why does it appear that way? Well, people are, one person, this is the whole sugar diabetes things, the dopamine, the quick hit. One person made a video walking on a Ford lot, and then a Jeep lot, and then a Ram lot, and it really sold. It made a lot of views to say that, Jeep, Ford, GM can't sell any trucks. Why? Because we're all frustrated that the prices have increased. They're hitting a nerve that exists in pretty much all of us. We're all bothered by the fact that everything has increased. Food's increased. Chlorine for my pool is increased. Fuel prices have increased. Everything is more expensive. So of course, if you hit that current common nerve running through all of society, you can make an emotional argument with zero data, and everyone's brain is telling them, boy, do I ever agree with this person? Boy, I'm going to watch this video 2 times and share it with everyone. But the problem is that the frustration is misplaced. It's misplaced. We're all pissed off, and it's because we're all having to pay. Inflation is a form of taxation for normal working people because money was printed off. So anytime that governments print off all sorts of money, free money doesn't exist. When governments print off money or give out free money, we have to pay for it. We're going to pay through it through different forms of taxation, and one form of taxation is inflation. Now, it's not just governments. Banks have very irresponsibly handed out money that's non-existent. It's not money that they actually hold in their banks. They lend out, well, about 10 times more money than they actually have, meaning they've made up fake money. So the prices of houses go way up. The price of everything goes way up. And when you couple that with unbelievably low interest and a steaming hot stock market that a lot of people are making money on, well, it can seem like a really good idea to, take out extra money from the equity of your home and buy all sorts of toys because, hey, interest rates are so low. And when everyone's sort of fighting for a limited amount of available product, that also blows up the price. And that's where markups occurred. Markups occurred because a lot of people were fighting over the same products. So F-150s, everyone wanted to go camping all of a sudden. So what happened? F-150s was popular. F-150s had huge markups, and there were waiting lines. People were waiting. There was waiting lists to get an F-150. So I understand car questions answered. It makes sense. Their conclusion is, I like this guy, and I think he 99% of the time makes a lot of sense, has incredibly good advice, great shopping advice. But the 1% of the time, the eyes and the ears don't always have your brain go to the right conclusion because your heart, the emotional part, often gets in the way. And in this instance, the fact that we're all super peed off that prices have gone up so much makes it very easy to go to Ford lots and see a whole bunch of F-150s and say, whoa, Ford wants to make F-150s, because this was one of his conclusions. He said Ford wants to make F-150s because it makes them money, and they're not making Mavericks because it just doesn't make them money. As if, as if they're kind of forcing you to take this F-150 or, shove off. So what happens? A lot of people go, well, you know what? I'm going to shove off. I'm never going to buy a Ford again.
They didn't have 2 big factories for the Mavericks, so and they want to get prepared for maybe the most Ford vehicle that is selling the most.
Well, yes and yes, but I'll summarize this into 3 very valid points and data driven and just factual, historically correct. You're right. Ford has 2 major factories for the F-150, and they've been making them for decades. If the parts come in, they can produce an F-150 faster than most underwear companies can make socks and underwear. Like, even though the F-150 is complex, it doesn't take a month from the beginning of the production line to the end of the production line. This thing goes through the production line probably faster than you can walk. You'd probably get tired part of the way through and take a nap, and the F-150 would be, there'd just be F-150s rolling right by you while you sleep. They produce these unbelievably well and quickly. 2 major factories making them. Now, here's the other thing. Historically, data right here, 2018, 2019, medium, mid-sized truck market. Ford themselves, Rangers, they're selling what? 50, 60,000 Rangers a year. Year one, from the return of the Ranger, with all the excitement for people for a decade screaming, saying, oh, I'm never going to buy a Ford again if they don't make another Ranger. I had heard this for many years, folks. And guess what? Ford brings back the Ranger under huge apparent anticipation. In year one, they sell 90,000 Ford Rangers.
Yeah, wasn't that popular?
It wasn't, well, it was 3 times more popular than the Honda Ridgeline, which generally sold 25 to 30,000 Honda Ridgelines each year. From, all through the 2000s. Those were Honda Ridgeline numbers. The Toyota Tacoma, unbelievably popular, wildly popular vehicle. Selling what, 200,000? I think they were selling 100,000 in the US some years.
Maybe it's the category.
So, that's the conclusion Ford kind of had when they made the Maverick. They made this Maverick, and they made the choice, because it shares the platform with both the Escape, the Lincoln Corsair, and the Bronco Sport. You can't expect a company to take a huge risk, like a monumental risk, saying we're going all in, and if this doesn't work out, the company goes bankrupt. We're putting all our eggs into the same Ford Maverick basket. No, they had data saying year one, Ranger sells 90,000, and after that, less every year. Honda Ridgeline, heck, they have trouble selling more than 32,000 in a year. So what happens? They used one factory for the Ford Maverick, and that factory is shared with the Bronco Sport. So really, what happens? You have half a factory making the Ford Maverick. Now, the Ford Maverick, small trucks, especially, rear wheel drive only, or heck, front wheel drive, which could have been a big concern, because throughout the 2000s, 80s, 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, typically you had a certain negative connotation that you put on. You basically make fun of someone that had a 2-wheel drive truck, especially if it was a small truck. These weren't seen as excessively masculine and manly. So, what's going on with the Ford Maverick? Well, they have increased production, and 41% of the production at that one factory is for the Ford Maverick. The other 59% is for the Bronco Sport. And the percentage originally was higher on the Bronco Sport. Why? Because, just Ford, it means Ford assumed that they'd sell more Bronco Sports than Mavericks. They thought there'd be more demand for it, and they have absolutely corrected that, that they're slowly bringing up Maverick production and cooling down Bronco Sport production, but it's still not 50-50. I would think they're working towards it. And I know even back in early 2022, Ford, this is, insider stuff, Ford told dealers, hey, we know how badly the customer base wants Mavericks. We know they're almost, breaking down your castle walls with pitchforks and torches, calling you monsters for not providing Ford Mavericks. So we are going to do our absolute best to increase production. So this whole idea that Ford's not making Mavericks isn't true. In May, they had the best production month ever for the Hermosillo plant. Doing my best to pronounce things correctly. I always want to respect people and their cultures. Respect people as long as they're nice and respect me. If someone's not nice and doesn't respect me, well, they're going to find out that I know a thing or two. So, production numbers. I'm searching. Honey, could you look through this pile right there? I've got 3 different piles for 5 different parts of this show. So production numbers, roughly the Hermosillo plant made 26,000 and a few hundred vehicles total. 15,000 and several hundred were for the Bronco Sport, and they had the best Maverick production year at about 12, right around 12,000 Mavericks. So that's what's going on. Note that's going to be for how to save thousands at Ford. So sorry I don't have the exact down to the number data. I usually like to have that, but tonight I just have too many notes to share, too much good, awesome information that you definitely want to share these videos with people. Give the thumbs up and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out any information, because we do cut through the crap, and you know, we try to say it really as it is. So the Ford F-150, really simply put, they've got two huge factories making them. They're pumping them out. Ford production is up. Ford sales are also up from a year ago. But here's the truth. Well, F-150 sales are up about 20%, roughly. 20% more is going to fleet sales. So really, you could actually make the conclusion that on the retail side of things, selling to people like us, normal people, things are stagnating. And that's actually really good, because production, remember, is way up from a year ago. So if retail sales are stagnating, what does this mean? It means that the F-150 eventually, all those missing sales to fleet, because Ford did a nice choice. Before all these price increases, they're pretty much sending all their available F-150s to people, not to the huge fleet orders. And they got behind on those fleet orders, obviously, because they're doing their best to provide loyal, long-term people customers their vehicles. And to big companies, they're kind of saying, hold on to your Ford a little longer. We'll get back to you. We'll be right back in a minute, is basically what they're saying. Well, now they're getting back to them. But once fleet has sort of been saturated and filled up, well, there's going to be no choice. It's either cut down production and make less money because you're selling less volume, or come out with better prices. Already we've seen it. I talked about going back to January 2023, and I think a few months before, but I really started talking more about it this January, saying, you know, prices weren't bad because trade values were good. Well, that's still the case. Prices aren't bad if you have a trade that's worth a lot, but if you don't have a newish trade, anything that's, you know, 7-8 years or newer, if you don't have a 5-6 year old truck that's worth a ton of money right now, it is hard to swallow that huge new truck payment. So if you've got a 20-year-old truck or just no truck and it's not worth very much, here's the trick. Wait a couple months. Fleet's going to get eventually saturated. They're going to have all this production still pumping out, and yards can only take so much, because here's another truth of the automobile industry. Some channels like to try to say that dealers are hiding vehicles. Dealers aren't hiding vehicles. Some dealers have always had extra lots where we store our new vehicles when our small, front line lots are full. We've always had backup spaces. And right now, I think we've got like 4 trucks at our backup space. When I've had some years, 2018, I think there was about 75 F-150s on this backup lot. So we're still not at full capacity in any way whatsoever. We're at, maybe a little over half capacity. And yes, days on the lot, vehicles, how long they take to sell at Ford did just cross 100 days. But that's actually starting to look more like 2018, 2019 data. However, in 2018, 2019, dealers weren't paying this insane interest rate. So yes, dealers do not want to go back to the type of inventories they used to have under the interest rates.
The game has changed.
So the game has changed. Dealers are going to start telling Ford, well, no. Actually, we don't want an extra whole bunch of trucks this month. Instead of taking 100 new trucks, how about we only take 30? And the negotiation is going to be more around, Ford being like, well, we want you to take 100. And the dealer's going to be like, well, I'll take 30 extra. And then they'll be like, well, you know what, you make us happy, take 50. And be like, oh, okay, we'll take 50. And then Ford kind of knows, it's like ringing bells at Ford. Hey, maybe we should come out with a promotion where the interest rate drops Oh wait, they already did that on the F-150. Or maybe a promotion where they take 47, almost $5,000 off the F-150. Oh no, wait, they already did that. Oh wait, but YouTube made me think that huge corporations are really, really dumb. They're not. They're run by a lot of smart people, hundreds of thousands of really smart people. Ford, GM, Jeep, these are our companies, folks. So can we not, please, can we not be like the 1970s and 1980s dumbasses over in Britain that destroyed their own car market because before YouTube, there were, newspapers and politicians, they had a lot of say. And they were just, bashing their own product. It was just common in the 1980s. It was just common if you're a British person and you'd make fun of your own British cars. And yes, they weren't great, but cars these days, no matter what manufacturer you buy them from, they're all at least good. There's maybe a few particular models that are troublesome and a little bad, but there's no car maker that's just overall bad. I know you're surprised.
And no one that is fully perfect too. Everybody will have a recall.
Corvette Z06 is an incredible machine. It's an incredible motor, but yes, one blew. Heck, my ex-sister-in-law had a Toyota Corolla and her transmission blew.
It's not all the Corolla who does that.
It's not all the Corolla. Actually, the Corollas are fantastic vehicles, but that one had an engine blew, and she didn't drive around and beat it or anything. So let's just try not to be economic terrorists and destroy our own economies and destroy millions, not millions, but probably million point something jobs in Canada and the US because, it's easy, it's quick dopamine, it's sugar, but people, we're going to end up with economic diabetes, meaning we're going to be large and not in charge. We're going to be large and hard to get around. Why is it going to be hard to get around? Because we won't be able to buy any more Ford, Jeep, GMs because we'll have trashed them for a few dollars and these jobs won't exist and they're good paying jobs and people put a lot of work and effort to bring us awesome trucks. GM makes awesome trucks. Dodge makes awesome trucks. Ford makes the most awesome trucks. Toyota in the US makes some awesome trucks. So let's just keep that in mind and not partake in this economic terrorism, whether it's deliberate or not deliberate. In this case, very much not deliberate, 99% true. It's just, I had to explain. Also, there's the fact that the Ford Maverick, please do recall, folks, that the Ford Maverick is currently in half a factory and demand is unbelievably high. So we just need to keep that in mind. Ford, it's not that they don't want to make Mavericks. They made like 12,000 of them last month. 12,000 vehicles. That's
after
that's
the
not
range,
the GMC EV Hummer where they might only make 5,000 ever since they've been making them.
Yeah, and after the Ranger that wasn't that popular at the first time, maybe they didn't expect that popularity for the Maverick. So
far they've made 56,000 this year. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact unit in front of me because for whatever reason I can't find my sheet. Yes, we can find that new sale vehicles have risen by 23% from a year ago, but that's not some sort of sign that says prices will never go down. Prices have to go down if production stays high and yards are full. But I'm not expecting MSRPs will stay the same. It's just we're going to start getting fed a few rebates and we're going to start getting fed some promotional interest rates where the manufacturer is essentially kind of financing a better interest rate. They're paying for a better interest rate so that we can get a better deal and these monthly payments can go down. But if you're in the market to switch right now, it's not bad. Especially, it's actually pretty good if you have a vehicle. Because, for example, I see vehicles right now like a 2019 Escape. Traditionally, a 3-year-old, 3.5-year-old Escape on a very long period of finance, probably would have been about $6,000 upside down, meaning you had to refinance $6,000 to make the deal or accept being lied to because you wanted to buy a lie, because there's ways to trick and cheat numbers. But sometimes people want to buy a lie and they go shop for that lie instead of shopping for a quality vehicle. So right now, an Escape is pretty much break even if it's financed for a really long period of time.